Hey, welcome to Tone Barbecue. I'm Tony. Thank you so much for visiting my channel. So I've been getting a ton of questions from folks that are asking about how to maintain temperature and get a good clean smoke when using actual firewood, like what I've got down here in their offset smoker. Using firewood is really more of an art than it is a science, and it's something that just requires attention and really evaluating what's been going on so you can apply what you've learned with each cook. So what I'm going to show you today is how to get that temperature, man, to get that right temperature and get the right type of smoke. I'm going to show you a few things. First of all, I'm going to show you the two modifications that I made to this smoker that actually make a difference in temperature control and smoke quality. There's only two, and they made a huge difference. They're super important. I'm going to show you those. I'm also going to show you the trick to getting a good clean smoke from the moment you put a new piece of wood onto your fire. And I'm also going to show you how to get the right temperature you want with the wood that you put into your firebox. And lastly, I'm going to actually demonstrate for you the difference between dirty smoke and clean smoke by showing you what gets deposited on the food that you're going to be sticking in your mouth. I'm going to show you what happens when you run dirty smoke, show you what you're going to be eating if that's what you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to fire this bad boy up and let's get going. Let's talk about what we're cooking with today. This is a Char-Griller Smokin Champ. This is what some folks like to refer to as a cheap offset smoker. And I hate that term, cheap. I don't like buying things that are cheap. This was a very inexpensive offset smoker. It cost me a couple $100. Got it at Home Depot. And although it's not the super high-end offset smoker that you might spend $1,000 or $3,000 on, I've been able to produce the same kind of barbecue on this that you could on one of those. It just required a couple of minor modifications. I'm going to show you what those are. Okay, so this thing is made from steel that's strong enough, it's thick enough. It's actually a pretty decent smoker. For $200, you're not going to find anything that's better quality, that's for sure. And it does the job. The problem that I had with it is airflow. And if you're struggling with temperature management, airflow, I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10 is your problem. Sometimes it could be the wood that you're using, but usually it has to do with airflow. So here are the ways that I fixed that problem on this offset smoker. This is a 2-piece offset smoker where you've got the bottom half barrel here, and the upper half of the barrel is separate and made into a lid here. Now, some of them, I'm going to close this, some offset smokers you've got are just like one big barrel with a lid that hinges here up and down, much like the firebox is here, where this is just one piece, and then you've got a lid that hinges up and down. So let me start by showing you here. When you've got that type of smoker where you've got just the whole barrel and a lid, they're pretty easy to seal up. Okay, what I'm talking about is air and smoke that escapes from between the barrel and the lid. So in this case, when I first got this, a little bit of smoke was escaping from right here along this area and a little bit even along the edges. And if the smoke is coming out of there, it's going to affect the way the fire burns inside the box here. So what I did on this is I applied smoker gasket all the way around here. Now, there's another video that I made where I showed exactly in detail how to apply smoker gasket to this offset smoker. And I suggest if you haven't seen that video, you're going to want to go and check that out. But it is very detailed, and one thing that you will notice in that video, I used to have the smoker gasket installed up here. Well, I just redid it recently and I installed it here instead because I found it to be much more effective, because when it was in here, it was actually getting burnt by the fire a little bit. Here, it's not going to get burnt by the fire at all. It's very protected. So the challenging part though was sealing up the main cooking chamber up here, because it's this big 2-part lid. So I'm not going to get into great detail on this right now because there's that other video that you can go and watch, so I'm going to save you some time with all that. But I did apply smoker gasket all the way around, and I even applied some RTV high temp smoker gasket, silicone, applied it up here as well. And that made this so that when this lid is closed, smoke does not leak out from around the lid like it used to. It used to billow out from all over the place here. So the name of the game is airflow. Reason this is so important is because you're going to be burning wood down here in your firebox. And that wood is going to be drawing air into the firebox from over here. And that air's got to go in there. And if this thing's going to work properly, you want that air to travel through here, and you want it to come up because heat rises. You want that heat and smoke to come up through your cooking chamber here, and you want it to come out of that stack right here. And you need to be able to control how much heat is flowing through here. So the problem is, if you don't have this thing sealed right, what's going to happen, one, smoke's going to be coming out from places where you don't want it. So that means that you're not going to be getting that nice consistent flow across your food as it moves through this barrel and comes out the smokestack over here. Also, if you can't control that airflow, then that air is going to do whatever it wants. It might slow down the air, it might increase the speed of the air, and what's going to happen is the fire that you're burning inside here is going to be wild, and it's going to be all over the place. Plus, when smoke and air is coming out in all kinds of weird random places, you're going to have inconsistent temperature. So you, as the person managing your pit here, are going to react by doing things like trying to put in more wood, trying to build a bigger fire, and then that fire is going to be raging out of control. So if you have your airflow dialed in nicely and you don't have your smoke flowing out from weird places where it doesn't need to be, the little pile of wood that you burn over here is going to be much more consistent. It's going to be less all over the place. So the only thing you're going to have to worry about then is the outside environment. Like today is a beautiful day in early June. It's only 72 degrees here. It's a little overcast and it's calm. There's barely a breeze. This is an excellent day for barbecuing. But if it's windy, that could be a little bit more of a challenge. If it's raining, that could be a little bit more of a challenge. If it's super cold, again, another challenge. But what you don't want to add to that challenge is smoke leak from places where you don't need it coming out. You need to control that. So maintaining control over your airflow is number one, most important. I'm going to show you the second modification I made right now. The second modification I made to this, and the only other modification that is really of any importance whatsoever, is inside the firebox right here. Let me show you. There it is. This grate that I use to put my fuel on. This modification right here is of extreme importance, and I'm going to show you why right here. If you notice, this grate is about halfway in the middle right here of the air intake vent. Here it is from the other side. Here's the level of the grate. I'll tell you why this is important. It's important because with the grate at this level, air is able to get underneath the fuel. It goes right in here and goes right up underneath the fuel. Now, I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to show you what this came. Okay, this is the grate that originally came with this Char-Griller Smokin Champ. Get this out of the way. Put this in. This is how it goes. It may not look like that much of a difference, but it actually is. So I'll put this back in. Now that sits a little lower in here and it sags a little bit, and I understand why they have that one in there, because with that in there you could have a bed of charcoal in there, and you've got these cool little grates in here, and you could actually use this as another barbecue, and you can do some direct heat grilling right on these grates right above your coal. So it's kind of a handy little thing. But you know what, I never even use these grates anymore. I have another the roll that I use. So usually they're sitting over here. I've used them, but you can see they don't get much use. Even got a little rust built up there. So I don't really care about them. But this little tiny grate down here just doesn't do the job for me. So got rid of it and I replaced it with this nice heavy duty cast iron grate. Now this thing I actually salvaged from an old barbecue, and it just happened to be the perfect length. I'm going to show you exactly how long it is. All right, here it is, 16.5 inches long. Okay, now this one used to be wider. If you can't tell, I cut off a few of the grates here. So it used to be a bit wider. It actually used to be, I think, about 13 inches across, but I cut it down. So now it's just under 11 inches. It's about 11 and 3/4 inches, which the firebox here, 11 and 3/4 inches, sits just below the level there of the top of this firebox, this drawer. So when I sit it in here, fits very nicely. See that? It's solid, it is straight, and there is a lot of space underneath for the air to flow, and it makes a huge difference. Now when I put this in the offset, it's heavy. Throw that in here. There we go. What I do is I build my fire right here. I have a little pile of wood that burns here, and then it gets good clean air from the air that comes down from underneath there. Not only that, because this thing sits up a little bit higher, another little trick that I have, I'm going to share with you a few tricks, maybe I didn't list them all, is on a really long cook. Sometimes you get a nice little pile of ashes down here below your fire, and that pile of ashes can start to choke off that airflow and make it so that your wood doesn't burn as nice and cleanly. Well, I have this nice long screwdriver that I bought years ago for probably $5 from the cheapo bin at the auto parts store. And I take this screwdriver and I stick it in one of these holes here like this, just underneath the grate, and all I do is sweep it back and forth underneath like this. I'll take it over here, do it to the other side, a little sweep back and forth. It's amazing how much that ash that's down below there, it just compacts, just squishes down and gets out of the way very quickly and very easily to open up the airflow. On a 14-hour cook, 16-hour cook, I usually have to do that process maybe once, usually around the 8-hour mark, because there's so much room up here that I don't have a problem with the air getting choked off. Notice if you do this, if you have this exact same offset smoker, and if you get a cast iron grate like this and you cut it to size and you stick it in here, notice I actually have it sitting right on top of that little nut and bolt that's right here where your vent damper is. Okay, so this right here is super important. It's just as important as the gasket modification that I made to this very inexpensive, very affordable offset smoker. Now this is a modification that does apply and to all offset smokers. Just think about this, okay? Like I said, this is about really evaluating what's going on. It's an art. Evaluating what's been going on with your offset smoker and just applying what you're learning as it's going on, but paying attention to that wood. If your wood is smoldering too much and you're having trouble getting it to burn cleanly, then you need to look at airflow. It's almost always airflow, and figure out what you can do to improve airflow. It's really, really easy to see if you have any leaks, because you can see smoke, especially if you're running dirty smoke. You can see it billowing out of places where it's not supposed to be coming, whether it's just coming out of the lid or out of your firebox lid. So that's an easy one to spot and pretty easy to fix too. If you're not getting, if that's been taken care of and you're still not getting good, clean burning fuel and very consistently burning fuel, then you got to look at your fire grate and see what that's sitting on and making sure that you have good adequate airflow going into that. And so those two things right there are the only things I really needed to do to this to make this a freaking awesome offset smoker. Okay, right now we got to address preheat, which is another essential component of managing and maintaining your temperature. So first of all, I have to apologize if you catch me rambling a little bit, or if you get some excessive camera movement. I don't really script what I'm talking about. I just really love talking about barbecue, and I didn't start this channel to become a professional YouTuber, so you're rarely going to catch me speaking in that weird fake sounding voice that they all like to use. So here's what we got right now. I'm going to start this cook off here by lighting up well, you see kind of sticking up top there. It's not totally full, but I've got a chimney full of lump coal that I'm going to start burning, and that's going to go in the firebox here. And I'm going to use that lump coal for two reasons. One, actually, I'm going to skip one of the reasons. I'm going to use that lump coal to get this cooking chamber really hot. That's why there's a little extra lump coal there. This process, some of you might not like, because you're like, why do I gotta heat up my offset smoker for an hour before I even get to put any food on the grill? I just want to light the fire and throw the meat on the grill and get to drinking some beer. All right, well, sorry. Okay, you can do that if you want. All right, but if you really want to get this thing working right, this entire cooking chamber's got to be hot. Got to be really hot. Hotter than you're going to actually cook in it, for two reasons. One, it's going to sanitize the inside of your cooking chamber, because if you are taking care of if you got cast iron grates or extruded metal, whatever, it's a good idea to leave them a little greasy and dirty. Like this one is still greasy and dirty from my last cook. So I'm going to get this grate over 300 degrees in this process. And even though I'm only going to be cooking at 225 to 250, I'm going to get it over 300, maybe even 325. Sometimes I get it all the way up to 400. I don't really care. I want all this metal. I want those grates. I want the barrel from end to end, all the way around, hot. Really, really hot. Reason for that is because if this portion is hot and the fire is down here and the air is coming in from down here, heat rises. So that means it's going to actually suck air in from out here. It's going to suck that air in through that hole over here, and it's going to burn in that fire pile. It's going to be right there, and then it's got nowhere to go when it goes up, because it can't get out for this sealed lid here. It's going to be forced, and it's going to be drawn into the cooking chamber here, because this cooking chamber is going to be hot. And that hot air is going to be pulled right through here, and the only place for it to escape is going to be out the stack right here. Okay, now if some of your offset smokers, the opening to your stack is over here on the side, okay, and so the smoke is going to be coming out right here, and the highest point is going to be right here. And this one, the highest point is near similar, it's over here, but this is all important because you want that airflow to be able to come through here. No matter what, this thing is going to fill up full of that smoky air. Okay, whether it's a lot of dirty smoke or whether it's good clean smoke, this entire cooking chamber is going to fill up with that, no matter where the opening of that smokestack is. Okay, it's not going to magically make a straight line go up and around and over and out. It's going to fill this whole thing up. Okay, this is important. I'm mentioning this right now because some people like to put a modification on these things where you've got a air vent, dryer vent, that goes from the hole in your stack here all the way down to the grate level. I'm not a big fan of that, because now that smoke is going to come, it needs to go in from right down here instead of from up higher. and it actually slows the airflow down a little bit. Now you'll get probably more smoke, but is it that smoke that you want? Is it that good clean smoke? I don't know. Test it out for yourself. I've tried it. I found out that it's not the best solution for these things, and I wouldn't do it. Anyways, so if you get this sucker nice and hot before you put your food in there, it's a really good thing, because then it's going to make for a much more consistent fire from over here. You want a consistent fire and a consistent temperature throughout here before you put your food on the grill. That process might take anywhere from half an hour to an hour. Usually for me, it's about 15 to 20 minutes of getting the lump coal going there. And then it's going to be another probably 30 minutes of building temperature in here, getting it nice and hot. And then the temperature will start to fall. It might be a few more minutes before I can even put the food on the grill, because the temperature, if it gets up to 325, it's got to come back down to 225 before I can put the meat on the grill. And you'll learn, you got to gauge it. Don't put too huge of a fire in there. And then also, no, you'll be able to tell when it's about time to go ahead and put your meat on, because even if this thing is still at 275, and if your pile is burning down a little bit there, then once you open up the grill, by the time you get everything on there, you know, and then close the lid, I'll guarantee you the temperature in here is going to be down to like 150 or something like that, because you've had the lid open for a while. And then it's going to build back up quickly though, because all that metal is still really hot, and that is still going to be drawing that air through there very nicely. So it's just about learning that art, learning that balance of when it's okay. So most important thing though, get anything out of this, is just do your preheat right. Okay, be patient. Get your fire built over here nicely. Get this thing nice and hot. Scrub and clean your grates before you put your meat on, and then go from there. Okay, so we're gonna let this thing finish heating up. Okay, I've got my lump coal burning in the firebox here. I used my firebox tongs to move everything off to one side over here. Quick recap. First thing discussed so far is the importance of airflow and how to maximize your airflow for a proper burn. I want to address something else here, and that is the wood that you're going to burn. You want to make sure, if you're burning actual wood, that you get wood that is appropriate for your firebox. Now this is not a very huge firebox. Matter of fact, this firebox is 18 inches long, and it is 15 inches in diameter. It's a relatively small firebox. So you can't stick a giant log in that firebox and expect to get good results from that. If you put a log like this in that little tiny firebox, all you're going to get is either a giant fire that melts the paint off your firebox, or you're going to have to choke off the air, and you're going to get a bunch of dirty smoke. If you want clean smoke, you have to have good airflow. That means you got to keep that vent wide open, and you got to keep the smokestack up here also wide open, and let that air flow through there. If you have a pile of wood that is too big and you've got airflow going through there, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get a big fire and a lot of temperature. And you only have two choices at that point. Choke off the air or take some of the wood out. If you choke off the air, what happens to your fire? Your fire will start to smolder. The smoldering wood is what creates the dirty smoke. You want flames. So if you notice, you don't see a whole lot of flames right here with this lump coal, because with lump coal, the stuff that's created, the stuff that creates the dirty smoke is already burnt away. And so even if you do choke down the air, you're still not going to get that dirty smoke. But natural wood is different. Natural wood has not had that stuff burnt out of it yet. So if you try to choke off the wood, it's going to get you dirty smoke. So if you have a chunk of wood like this, you're going to have to do some work on it if you got a small firebox like this over here. You're going to have to cut it down. You're going to need some pieces of wood that are much smaller. Maybe more like this, which is, you can see here, about half the length of that, because I literally cut that in half, and then I took an axe and I whacked it into much smaller pieces so that I don't end up with a giant fire. You are going to have to figure it out. How big of a chunk of wood do you need for your firebox to get the temperature that you want? Going to take a little experimentation. I recommend start with smaller pieces. You can get firewood from Home Depot and other hardware stores, Lowe's, Ace Hardware. I think even Walmart carries them now. You can get chunks, little bags of chunks of wood in various sizes, from usually around the size of an apple or a baseball. They're kind of expensive in my opinion. Some places do carry logs that look very similar to that you will probably have to cut down unless you have a really big offset smoker, and that's awesome. You may not need to do that in that case. But if you can, check with a local firewood distributor. Go online and Google firewood distributors and find a good one. Call around. A lot of the good firewood distributors, especially if they got a place that you can go to instead of just delivery, like the tree cutter guys, but go to a place that sells firewood, and a lot of them will carry cooking wood that they sell to restaurants. You got to ask them specifically, do you have cooking firewood that you sell to restaurants? If they say yes, ask them what they have. A lot of times they'll have oak. A lot of times I'll have apple and cherry. Those are my favorites, really. This is oak right here, and you'd be surprised. Like if you got say you got a car or a small SUV or something, usually for about 20 or 30 bucks, you can practically fill up the trunk of your car, and shoot, it's enough wood to burn for many cooks, especially if you're cutting down all these logs into small little pieces like this. Okay, so that's number one. Make sure you get use the right size wood. Okay, we're up to 240 degrees and climbing. I'm going to talk about the tip to getting your wood to burn cleanly right from the start. It's very simple. You want this wood to be hot. You want your wood to be extremely hot before you put it in the fire. You want this wood to be so hot that you would have trouble holding it. There's a couple ways you can do this. One, you can stick it on top of your firebox like that. The surface of this firebox is super hot, and this wood's going to get super hot. Personally, I like to do this. I like to put it right here. Usually, I'll put a couple sticks right there, and I'll do it more like that. I'll have one here, one there. Sometimes I even have 3. But if you do that, these things are going to get so hot they're even going to just barely start to smoke a little bit. That might even start turning a little bit black. But you want that wood to be really hot, because if it's super hot, it's ready to ignite on fire. Like just right there. I've even accidentally lit them on fire and had to pull them out of there and throw them in my little burn pit over here just to get them away until they cool off a little bit. But if this is super hot, you put it on the fire, it's going to light up instantly and it's going to burn clean. I'm going to show you what happens when you don't. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in there after it's done its preheat, and I'm going to show you how it burns. Okay, smoker's been preheated, and I'm going to go ahead and make a few mistakes right now just to demonstrate what happens. And I'm getting kind of irritated because I'm about to do something I hate doing. I'm going to take this really nice big fat Miller's all beef uncured Frank. I'm going to ruin this heck out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing on the smoker right now, and I'm going to place it right here. And now I'm going to throw a log in the smoker, and I'm not going to warm up the log or anything. I'm just going to put it on the fire. I'm going to show you what happens. Matter of fact, I'm going to get one that's maybe even a little bit too big. I'm going to make all kinds of mistakes. What I really should do is I should let that pile of coal burn down a little bit more, but I'm not. I should also have gotten that piece of wood there super hot, but I didn't. Instead, I'm just going to do what a lot of folks do, make the simple mistake thinking it's okay. You know, I'd just put that piece of wood in there cold on a pile of fire that's a little too big, and I'm going to run some dirty smoke. If you can see here, there's a lot of smoke coming off that log right now as it starts to catch fire. And I'm going to close this up, and we'll have a look at the stack over here, and you're going to start to see smoke coming out of there. It doesn't look too bad right now, but it is starting to get a little thicker because that piece of wood is not burning as cleanly and easily as it should. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and run dirty smoke for an hour, and we're going to see what that hot dog looks like an hour from now after it's been collecting all that dirty smoke. One of the questions I had recently from somebody was about some chicken that he had cooked, and he said that after it had been in the smoker, pulled it out, and it had this thick layer of soot on it that he could literally wipe off with his finger. It was disgusting, and it didn't taste very good. And that's what we're going to create right now, is we're going to create that soot. And that's going to be depositing on this hot dog, and we'll show you that. Then we're going to do it right for an hour with a different hot dog. We'll see how that one comes out. Oh yeah, look at that thick white smoke. Nice dirty smoke. If you want some nice dirty smoke, then that's how you do it. Get a little pile of coal going in your firebox and put a stick in there that's cold and too big, and choke off the air a little bit, and you get a lot of this nice thick white dirty smoke, and your food will taste like smoke. We're about half hour in. Okay, it's been an hour. I gotta say, it's been pretty easy maintaining temperature with everything choked off like that. I've been running dirty smoke the whole time. Let's have a look inside the firebox here, and oh yeah. Whew. Now, if you notice, stuck a couple logs over there to get them nice and hot to get ready to do it right. That thing over there is still smoldering and smoking away, and you see even smoke backing up out of the main cooking chamber. Let's see how this hot dog looks after being in this chamber full of dirty smoke for an hour. There it is. Put another one on, let it go for an hour and clean smoke. Put that there. This one's coming off. Whew. All right, so real quick, I thought I'd show you the benefit of preheating your wood. Just grab this chunk right here, nice and hot, throw that there onto the coals, and that'll light up on fire here pretty quick. It'll smoke for a second. There goes my, sorry about that. See, got flames coming up already. That smoke is going to clean up real quick. Give a little bit of a blow, and there we go. Get good, hot, clean burning wood right away. There, that's some nice clean smoke. That's what I'm talking about. Thin blue, it's hard to see, smells amazing. That's going to produce some good barbecue. Okay, it's been an hour for the second hot dog here with the nice clean smoke burning. Let's have a look and see how it looks. There it is. Notice I also threw a half a pork shoulder on there. Now, let's put this over here with the other guy. Well, obviously the other one's cooled down a little bit here since. But one of these hot dogs is slightly darker than the other. Here they are side by side. This one with clean smoke for an hour, this one with dirty smoke for an hour. Obviously this one's cooled down a little bit, it's a little wrinkly looking now. But they both been in in the heat for the same amount of time, both of them absorbing flavor from the oak wood that they've been cooked in, but obviously this one a lot blacker because it's got a nice layer of soot built up on it, whereas this one is a lot cleaner looking. Which one would you eat? Now imagine you're cooking something in your cooking chamber for, 8 hours or even 6 hours, like a rack of ribs, and this is the result after just 1 hour. Imagine what it'd be like 6 times that. It would probably be a lot blacker. So that's why it's important to run clean smoke, because that soot buildup is what you're going to be eating and what you're primarily going to be tasting, and then you're going to be burping it up for the next few days. Okay, so here's the end result. I'm just going to throw that good looking hot dog in a bun there with some mustard, and that other one I'm not even going to feed to my dog. That doesn't look all that great. So thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful, and please put your questions in the comments and let me know if there's anything else you want to know, and I'll keep putting out these videos and hopefully putting out some stuff that is helpful to you in your barbecuing endeavors. Thanks again.